weekend on a clear, cold night, we may see quite a long way into the future of this season's championship. One match doesn't decide a title, but this one at the Dell stands in a fulcral position. If Southampton win, they can certainly open up the race and do themselves a great deal of good, and that's their lineup that we're looking at, and it's a full-strength lineup. The main doubt was about Agbula, who's been carrying a groin strain, but he's been past fit, as has the centre-half Mike Wright, who's been troubled for some time now with his right ankle. But there's an enforced change in the Liverpool side, because Graham Souness sadly has had to go back to Scotland because his mother, who's been ill now for a couple of years, died last night, and we offer him our sympathy. But up front, they welcome back Ian Rush, who missed last Saturday, also because of a groin strain. Team captained by Phil Neal. And it'll be interesting to see how they cover the absence of Graham Souness in midfield. But let's look first at the Southampton personalities, and Jimmy Hill at their left-back, Mark Dennis, playing his 20th game tonight since being signed last November.
Well, that's the sort of challenge that Laurie McMenemy, as a manager of a sort of not rich First Division club, has to face. To take a player who has been temperamental, has been in and out of trouble as long as he's played, but has had immense talent, and try to harness it, persuade him to calm that temperament and use the skill that God gave him. He's got plenty of it, a sweet left foot, and he could go on to really great things if he carries on the way he's been doing for Southampton under Laurie McMenemy's leadership. But of course, you'll remember that Southampton play this sweeper system. They have this man, Ruben Agbula, who plays behind the other defenders who mark their opponents man for man. It stood them in good stead in their away cup ties when they've been to all sorts of grounds and come away without conceding a goal, but it doesn't really undermine completely their attacking potential.
The opposition midfield would, as I said, be a major factor as to how they make up for the considerable absence of Graham Souness. They brought Steve Nicol into the side, but I gather that the role normally played by Souness will be played, in fact, by Sammy Lee. Difficult boots for Sammy to step into, Jimmy.
It's quite a challenge for him, really, because he's played nearly all of his career on the right side midfield, doing all the useful things that we know he can do so well. Orthodox, steady, reliable, very difficult man to play against. But to take over Graham Souness' role is a much harder challenge, because nearly all the Liverpool traffic, as we know, goes through that central midfield position. They'll attack down one flank. Instead of crossing it haphazardly, we'll pull it back, send it across the centre again, and it's Souness who distributes the ball so well from that position. So it's a big challenge for Sammy Lee tonight to see if he can prove that he's an even better player than many of us have thought up to now, and his reputation is already pretty high.
Goes back into the fold. Kenny Dalglish, who came on as a substitute against Benfica, played against Tottenham last Saturday and scored his 101st goal in English League football. So Peter Shilton warming up in the foreground. Bruce Grobbelaar right at the far end, some 100 yards away. And tonight's referee we've seen quite a lot of recently, and how well he's performed too. Brian Stevens of Stonehouse in Gloucestershire, who was the referee for both matches between Plymouth and Derby. And he gets underway the contest in the First Division between Southampton, who are attacking the goal to our left, and the champions Liverpool. First header for Nick Holmes, and here's Agbula. Lawrence and Worthington, and Worthington jumping at his man rather than for the ball. Play for the man coming forward from the back, but not working out. There's Nick Holmes. Steve Moran, Southampton's top scorer at 15 goals. Nice atmosphere for a fixture which, in the last 4 seasons, has produced no fewer than 19 goals. A sequence of 3-2, 2-3, 2-all, and last April 3-2 in favour of Southampton. And I was lucky enough to be among the crowd that evening as well. Agbula, Lawrenson, Mills timed it beautifully, placed it where he wanted it to go, and Wallace used it well. But he did initially, but then I think made no decision as to where he was going to go. Lee looking for Rush. Nicely balanced player, Ruben Agbula. Shout of England's number one, as England's number one clears the ball. Here's a genuine attempt. Right. Mills. Well, a little kindly, but then bounced awkwardly for Wallace. It's Kennedy. Dalglish. Nicol. In fact, taken as soon as his number 11 shirt. Moran, for a moment playing in the back four. Here's Mark Wright. It will be an interesting test of this young man against the pace of Ian Rush. Holmes. It's a fairly hectic start. Here's Craig Johnston. Well timed. Liverpool ball. And Craig Johnston, in the role that he relishes, playing as virtually a free player in front of, behind rather, the front two. Lawrenson. Neil gives him the angle, and he gives Lawrenson the space. Runs into trouble. Moran, though, has got to do it alone. Good cover by Neil. And appealing for a free kick. Moran got a knock, but Neil was the cover player. And when the free kick comes, it's against Holmes and in favour of Liverpool. And Mr. Stevens starting this match as he has performed in the last two we've seen on BBC television. Right on the spot and dead right both times in our book. And a few words with Mark Dennis. Good header by Agbula. Mick Mills. Wallace. Worthington. Nicol was close to Armstrong. And Williams seemingly had more time than most. Dennis. It's typical English pace. That was a good header, and Hansen was a bit late with the challenge. Frank Worthington moving forward, taking a central position. Williams for the knock-on. And the free kick against Hansen. Well, I think there was a bit of a wise head then by Frank Worthington, who in fact made no effort to jump for the ball. Hansen did, and suddenly found himself straddling Worthington's back. So this could be either Williams around one side of the wall or Armstrong around the other. Moran and Wallace waiting in line with the right post as we look. Maybe a touch from Armstrong to change the angle. No, Williams takes it. And it came off Alan Kennedy. Covered by Kennedy, just got into the line of flight. Would have caused Grobbelaar to move pretty sharply had it gone through. That was Ronnie Reardon who got that away. Nicol, free kick. Tripped by David Armstrong. I think those two are going to see quite a lot of each other on this near side. Rush and Wright together. And, just to the right there was an elbow contest going on between Steve Williams and Kenny Dalglish. Kenny Dalglish, who was missing from the Liverpool lineup for 14 games, this side were only beaten on 2 occasions in that time. Williams. Holmes has made a good run from the back. Neil, the cover man again. Holmes once more. Williams, Dennis is way over this side. Worthington. That's a fine ball. Dennis faced by Nicol. Gets a good cross, which is beautifully claimed. Really good football all along. The pass by Worthington, the cross by Dennis, the catch by Grobbelaar. I want to see better than that. Armstrong. And they got caught coming forward and had to get back. Alan Kennedy is still one of the quickest around. And he can, as he proved then, play the ball with his right foot when he has to. Been a member of Bobby Robson's squad without as yet being given his chance, but it would not surprise me if it comes up during the home international matches. Right. Williams. Mills. Wallace really hugging that right touchline. Lee.
There you see the challenge to Sammy Lee. On the ball, players moving in front of him. Which pass is he going to pick out? That's the challenge that faces him tonight, and the result, I would think, very largely depend on whether he can answer it.
Wallace seeing a lot of the ball. 3 in the middle for Southampton. And Craig Johnson just gets it out of harm's way. Drawn across. Good play by Mick Mills at the expense of a corner. Taken quickly and away by Wright. Wallace. Douglas. Williams, good play. Swerve as though he was going to play the back pass. Ronnie Whelan. Ronnie Whelan, who will be hoping to repeat his performance of 12 months ago in the League Cup final, the brilliant goal which beat Manchester United, you'll remember. Behind him, Mark Lawrenson has a problem, and it's quite clear what the problem is, because there is blood all down his lower face from the lip. I gather he got a knock from Wallace, but in an accidental challenge.
Just a contrast there with the midfield players. Steve Williams just twice flashed into the game. One, that beautiful ball there that he pushed through to Danny Wallace. Really, I think in top-class form. He wasn't outstanding for England, but I think he did well enough to deserve another go. And it is a contrast, his style, from that of Sammy Lee, as they stand together there. Colleagues at times for England, but tonight enemies in earnest in seeking league points.
And it'll be interesting, Jimmy, staying with Williams for a moment, that in the absence of Glenn Hoddle, he may well get a chance for England in his accustomed position.
I would think that would be a good move. Not that we have the problem of picking the England team, thank goodness. It's a difficult enough job. But I do feel that he would deserve a run and leave Robson to attack from midfield, a role which does seem to provide opposing international sides with more problems. But he certainly deserves another go on what he did against France.
Hoddle is currently enjoying the sunshine, and now Mark Lawrenson has grease on his face on a cold night in Southampton. Hansen. That was a bit parkish, to put it mildly. He had 3 bites there, truth be told. Mills takes. Mark Wright is forward. A very comfortable bounce for Grobbelaar. And he's kept a clean sheet in 20 out of 50 appearances for his club this season. He's kept a clean sheet for now just over 15 minutes of this one. Indeed, now the goalkeeper has had to make a save as yet. And Grobbelaar will this time as a fullback. Well, I don't know for a fact, but I think I'd be prepared to put money if there was a sprint contest at Liverpool that Grobbelaar would certainly get in the frame. Williams being given the room to cross it, whichever foot he chooses. Worthington. Dear, oh dear, so calm and assured. Liverpool seemingly inviting Southampton then to do what they wanted to do with it, and then just ended it with no fuss at all. Mills a little unfortunate. Distance from Craig Johnston. Goal kick. Agbula. Trying to exploit the pace behind Neil then. Neil having called for the forward ball. And quickly Sembele got back to cover. Johnston. Rush. Johnston. Dalglish. Armstrong back and Agbula's clearance. Lee in his more accustomed position. Wallace coming in from his glue spot on the right touchline. Williams. Round Lawrenson nicely. Here's David Armstrong. Dennis. Well, a good play by the skipper. Hit the cross long with David Armstrong well positioned as he so often is. And his header was back, perhaps a bit further back than he intended, and there was nobody there until Dennis came forward. But Mark Dennis yet to score for Southampton and didn't look like doing so then. Kennedy. Rush. Foot from right. It really is a full-speed battle for the opening. The flag is up for offside against Wallace. I was mentioning that this fixture's produced 19 goals in the last 4 seasons. But it's also worth noting that this evening the match is between the 2 teams with the best defensive records in the First Division. 22 goals against Liverpool, 25 against Southampton. Kennedy. Nicol. That's an example. When Craig Johnston was given the ball then, he had 4 players surrounding him at all 4 points of the compass, but he was quite happy to receive the ball. He worked his way out to start something again by going deeper. Williams. Dennis. Simple but very effective. Found the ball just a little bit too sharp from Frank Worthington. But a nice attack by Southampton. Simplicity is often the most effective. Dennis involved twice in it. Agbula. Johnson in the inside left position and complaining about the attentions of Agbula, but Mr. Stevens quite unimpressed. Whelan. Holmes. Good header to Johnston. Dalglish. David Armstrong seems to have the knack of being in the right places in both areas, as he showed against Portsmouth when we saw him, and indeed against Blackburn. Right. It's too strong, I think. Corner out of it. Worthington has come to the near edge of the 6-yard area. Moran at the back. Armstrong between the two of them. Double R again. Supremely confident. Holmes at left back. Rush and Dalglish waiting forward. Johnson now fills in ahead of Dalglish. Here he is. And Rush. Johnson taking a good position, but Shilton with the opportunity of proving that he can match the catching at the other end, and that will surprise nobody. Lawrenson, Neil. And by Nicol. Dalglish. With Holmes nearer. We've had 25 minutes with neither goalkeeper given the chance to show his capabilities other than taking a cross ball. It's Moran. Williams breaking from midfield. Well, he tried to stop because he was aware that Mills was moving on the right. Kennedy. Right going with Rush, handball, but accidental, said the referee. Johnston. And once again it's David Armstrong on his 6-yard line. useful player. Ronnie Whelan. Wallace arrived just in time. And Johnston offside.
Interesting that, Barry, that no goalkeeper yet has had to make a save. They've made a couple of catches, but it's the enigma of English football, isn't it, in the Football League. Full of efficiency, full of effort, exciting the crowd here because they're committed. On the other hand, rather like telling a joke without a punchline when you don't get a shot at the end of the attack. And it's efficient, it's good, it's interesting, but it's not really gripped a shot.
Southampton have a free kick about 35 yards out. 4 players in the area. Worthington got away, rolled it off the back of his neck. Oh dear, the bounce wasn't too kind to Hansen. And Worthington at the back. Williams. Dalglish strongly at him. Well kept in by Dennis. He would have enjoyed it. Little casual from Kenny Dalglish. Making too much progress with Wallace on that right side. Hansen. Found the pitch a little bumpy then in the 6-yard area. Twice almost lost it. Amount of square balls across the back 4 on the Liverpool side. Hansen. It's his first foray forward. Neil. Rush. Loses it. Dalglish, the angle very tight. And I guess he was there with the telling challenge yet again. David Armstrong. Rush being given a second chance then by Dennis. Slightly lost concentration. Neil. Johnson the player down. Don't think Mick Mills had any thought that the referee might give a free kick against him. Whelan. Nick Holmes. Wallace looking for the break, and what a fine ball. From Williams to Wallace to Steve Moran, if it hadn't been cut out by Bruce Grobbelaar. 2 passes in the move, and it made over 2/3 of the pitch. Lee. Whelan. Neil. Referee played a beautiful advantage. Wallace couldn't get a foot in. Hansen did. Liverpool unbeaten since they were knocked out of the FA Cup on the South Coast, down at Brighton, on a day when they lost Souness because of injury. If you've joined us late and are wondering why he's not in the Liverpool team. As we look at a fair bit of shouting from Laurie McMenemy, the Southampton manager, as soon as he's not in the Liverpool team because he's had to go back to Scotland because his mother died. Moran. Williams. Kennedy. Armstrong. Moran. Good save. Brilliant stuff from Bruce Grobbelaar. Moran seemed to have an expression of despair, and it really was a first-class piece of goalkeeping by Bruce Grobbelaar. Double save from him, and all Southampton get is the corner. Good claim. He just looks to see who came in from behind, but he looks with a smile. We've waited so long for a goalkeeper to make a save, and when one was called to do so, it was quite brilliant. Steve Moran was the player who was denied the second time. Armstrong, if my memory serves me right, was the one with the first shot. Mills ran into trouble, and Agbula also in trouble. Mills the initial culprit. Ronnie Whelan a little unlucky, and Mills was very lucky. And Bruce Grobbelaar way out to make a point. As we look again at his save, it was Kennedy and then Armstrong. That was the first save inadvertently, but Grobbelaar diving from Moran with Worthington right in front of him. Away by Kennedy. Mills. Wallace. Probably seen the ball more than any other attacker on the field. Danny Wallace. Mills. Johnston got the touch, didn't know too much about it. Fourth Southampton corner, I beg your pardon, the fifth Southampton corner. Right up at the back, away by Nicol. Holmes. Kennedy has come across to this side to follow Wallace. Ten minutes left of the first half, 0-0 the score. The shout of Ow, and the free kick rightly given. And the hour came from Ronnie Whelan. And the referee wants words with Steve Williams. His foot was certainly high. And Whelan goes away as a steady hobble. Rush. We don't often see him not make contact at all. Dennis. Shilton hasn't seen too much. Well, one wouldn't suggest that Liverpool are concentrating on making sure they keep the point they're starting with. I wouldn't be entirely unhappy with a drawn result here. Certainly don't want to lose it to give Manchester United the chance of going ahead by beating Arsenal tomorrow. Armstrong. Southampton, who trail them by 11 points, if they win, would be 8 adrift with 2 games in hand. A shot from Hansen. Made up a lot of ground. In the end, unable to test Peter Shilton.
Lee. That's good running by Johnston, and he lets it run well. Well claimed. Good pace all the way through, and Johnston confident to let the ball run. He didn't have too much room to make the cross. Well, the ball was picked up by Peter Shilton. Douglas. That with his right. Kennedy. Well, I don't think I'm being unfair when I say of Alan Kennedy that when he sets himself in that position, it either leads to enormous cheers or that sort of ooh that we had then as the ball is ballooned into the crowd. There seems to be nothing in between. Either great goals or great misses. Holmes. Agbula. Worthington. A shout of hold from the bench, which went unheeded. Davies. I think that's a free kick against Douglas. For putting himself about a little bit too much. And it's good to see him back on a football field after that nasty accident to his cheekbone. Liverpool have done well without him, without totally making up for the quality which he can produce. He can do the unexpected more than any other player in their lineup, I would suggest. Bula, Williams, Mills. That is offside. Just 5 minutes of the first half remaining. A half which statistically has seen only 4 fouls given against each side, which has only produced 1 save, and that from point-blank range by Bruce Grobbelaar from Steve Moran. Rather a contrast with last season here, when all 5 goals came in the first half of a match which Southampton won by 3-2. Williams getting away from Lawrenson, and tripped by him. He seemed just to take a little poke at his back. Neil has a point to make. Lawrenson had already made his point, went away with a smile. Suggestion is that Neil felt that Williams made a great deal of that. Anyway, Dennis takes the free kick. Mickey Mills. Not one to match the goal that he scored at Anfield, which gave Southampton a 1-1 draw when he hit a free kick through a crowd from 25 yards. That one, in fact, went out for the throw, as you just saw. Johnston. Agbula. Wallace. But where's he going? I don't think he knew. It's a match being enjoyed by the spectators here at the Dell for its competition. But I think it's fair to say that it's a bit too tight for the neutral. Here's Mills. Wallace. Free kick for offside, not the throw. Too much of the real play has been 25 yards on either side of the halfway line. Kingston. Kennedy had more time than he realised. It's good play. Getting Lee into the space, that's a little short. Lee. Williams. Limped a little bit then. I wonder whether that's a sign of the right ankle. Denied him his chance of playing for England in France. Trying to set up either Johnston or Dalglish. Johnston. Rush right to the penalty spot. We're into the last minute of the first half. A little bit to be added on for injuries, in particular the one to Mark Lawrenson. Neil. Williams. The free kick given. Bula organising the middle. Needed to do no more than that. Oof. A little bit close by Steve Williams. Mills. Wallace. Moran. Worthington in the middle, so is Armstrong. Here is Wallace. This could be promising. Needed a longer cross, I'm afraid. Williams. Mills with room and time. Wallace. Kennedy. And Dennis arriving late and certainly catching the ankle of Sammy Lee. That was not a challenge of which he should be proud, Mark Dennis. And there's moves all around the ground, but the referee, Brian Stevens, obviously saw that as dangerous, and I must say he's fully entitled for that opinion. Lee here, he really took his left foot. So one booking. Looks likely to be the only statistic of the half. And we've already played 2 minutes of stoppage time. Right. Worthington, beautifully done. And Wright has moved up to the far post for the return. And Grobbelaar changed his mind. Wallace! Oh, I say! What a magnificent goal! Brilliant goal by Wallace. Lovely ball by Worthington. Fine cross by Dennis, but Mark Wright, who started it, was the fellow who got the nod down. But this was brilliant. And we have a very much more rewarding and satisfying statistic than the booking. The goal for Southampton, scored by Wallace, started by Wright, with considerable involvement of Worthington and Dennis. Of stoppage time, so it's a little ironic that the goal came in the time mainly for the injury to Mark Lawrenson. Danny Wallace comes off all smiles. He saw more of the ball as an attacker than anybody on the field. A lot of it for him was frustrating, but in the end he had a moment I think he'll remember for quite a long time. His 4th goal of the season. Worthington with a lovely turn and left foot which found Dennis, who crossed the ball for Wright to head back and Wallace to put in with an overhead kick. And that sent a real buzz around the ground, and Liverpool come in a goal down. There are a few boos still for Sammy Lee out on the pitch as we see Mark Wright and Laurie McMenemy, whose view of the match has obviously been changed a bit by the goal. They had 5 in the first half here in this match last season, this time only 1, but certainly a goal to be remembered, Jimmy.
Well, a goal to be remembered and savoured and enjoyed. It certainly brightened it up tonight on a cold evening pub, didn't it?
Oh, it was great, that. I was just thinking, trying to think of what I was going to say at half-time. Most of the play seems to have been in midfield. They've been very, very aggressive. It's been a tough match. And maybe at home it doesn't look so good, but I think if you've played the game, you appreciate good marking, good tackling, closing people down. And both teams have done this very, very well. And I did think that if anyone was going to score, it was either going to be a really exceptional player coming from deep from midfield like Steve Williams has done a couple of times, or something like that. One little break in the box, an overhead kick, and little Danny Wallace there who scored the goal. I mean, I was just thinking the ball's been like a hot potato all night for him. He's never been able to get hold of it. It's been bouncing away from him. He must have been driving himself mad with frustration.
He didn't have a good game at Blackburn, did he? And we were a little sorry for him on that night, but it's good to see him just get that confidence from that goal.
Well, it was great. The game needed it. Now Liverpool will be in at half-time. They'll be thinking to themselves, well, we've got a lot to do now, and the championship they're looking for. And Manchester United supporters will all be rubbing their hands with glee, I've no doubt. But nevertheless, it's brought the game to life, that, although I didn't think it really needed it. It was a really good game, very aggressive, although there wasn't a lot of chances about. But I think very interesting.
I'll ask you about Liverpool in a moment. But first of all, let's have a look at the highlights of that first half.
Maybe a touch from Armstrong to change the angle. No, Williams takes it. And it came off Alan Kennedy. Wallace coming in from his glue spot on the right touchline. Williams. Round Lawrenson nicely. Here's David Armstrong. Dennis. Kennedy. Armstrong. Moran. Good save. Brilliant stuff from Bruce Grobbelaar. Moran seemed to have an expression of despair, and it really was a first-class piece of goalkeeping by Bruce Grobbelaar. Worthington. Beautifully done. And Wright has moved up to the far post for the return. And Grobbelaar changed his mind. Wallace! Oh, I say! What a magnificent goal! Brilliant goal by Wallace. Lovely ball by Worthington. Fine cross by Dennis. But Mark Wright, who started it, was the fellow who got the nod down. But this was brilliant.
Well, I think the Southampton players congratulating Danny Wallace there because they know what that's going to do for his confidence. He's not been at his best recently, and that's going to make some difference to his future form. But for news from the dressing room, let's now join Alan Parry.
Well, Jimmy, one thing I think I have to say, anybody who's critical of the standard of modern football really ought to take the opportunity I've just taken of watching the game from a very unusual angle. I've actually been standing on the touchline near the corner flag down there, and it really does make you appreciate the speed, the ferocity of tackling. You can almost feel some of the tackles yourself, and the degree of pace that players have to get the ball under control quickly. It's a marvellous and quite a different game from down there, and I must say the Danny Wallace goal looked just as good from our angle, particularly the Frank Worthington ball to Mark Dennis to set it up. But Liverpool came off obviously very disappointed, and one or two complaints from the Liverpool camp. I think that maybe the referee's watch had gone slightly wrong. Certainly on my watch it was 47, nearly 48 minutes when that goal went in. Slight bit of concern also from Liverpool, who've just called for some ice to go into the dressing room for that facial injury to Mark Lawrenson following that fine early tackle he made on Danny Wallace. But really, I think as far as all the crowd around us are concerned, and there's a marvellous atmosphere here, everybody is convinced that that goal is just what the game needed, and I'm sure we're in for a great second half, Jimmy.
Well, I think the referee had his watch exactly right. That's sympathising with all the people at home. There's nothing like a goal to set a game at light, and that one certainly did. But now, with tonight's news, here's Bob Wilson.
Well, first news of a very important second division promotion game being played this evening at Stamford Bridge between Chelsea and Blackburn. There is no score with about 10 minutes of the first half to go. A ray of hope tonight for Derby County and all those clubs like them whose future is threatened because of financial difficulties. Derby, backed by a committee of MPs today, put their case for a more flexible approach by the taxman to the Treasury. Stuart Webb, Derby's chief executive, said, "We were received very sympathetically by the Minister, Mr John Moore, who said he would talk to his advisers in the Inland Revenue and come back to us later." Derby, of course, face a winding-up petition in the High Court on Monday because of debts to the Inland Revenue and will now seek an adjournment. On the playing front, 4 of the Derby side beaten by Plymouth in the Cup replay on Wednesday are dropped for the match against Brighton tomorrow. They are goalkeeper Steve Cherry, John Robertson, Archie Gemmell and Paul Fucher. With the transfer deadline 6 days away, the Watford manager, Graham Taylor, put the record straight on stories that Luther Blissett could be on his way back to Vicarage Road. Graham told us, "I have not been contacted by AC Milan, but if Blissett does become available, we would welcome him back as long as the fee does not exceed $250,000. Remember, AC Milan paid £1 million for Blissett when they bought him from Watford last summer. Incidentally, Taylor may rest his new star striker, Maurice Johnston, against Queen's Park Rangers tomorrow. The Watford manager feels Johnston, who scored 17 goals in 21 games for his club, is feeling the effect of a strenuous season. Other team news for tomorrow: Manchester United's Norman Whiteside is doubtful for the home game against Arsenal. Jeff Pike returns for West Ham at Leicester after missing 9 games. Viv Anderson is not risked by Nottingham Forest at Aston Villa, but should be back for the UEFA Cup return with Sturm Graz next Wednesday. Goalkeeper Ray Clements keeps his place in the Spurs team against West Bromwich Albion, while Ozzy Ardiles returns to the squad along with Gary Mabbott, who's missed the last 8 games. Albion includes Steve Hunt and Tony Grealish, signed yesterday for £160,000 in an attempt to end a run of 7 games without a win. And I've just got a score in from Chelsea. The score is Chelsea 1, Blackburn 0. Pat Nevin the scorer after 39 minutes.
Well, the most exciting moment, apart from the goal of that half, I thought, was the incident where Grobbelaar somehow, entwined with Frank Worthington, got the ball over the top. We've got an unusual camera angle on that just to see exactly what did happen. There it is now. You can see Moran turning. There's his little scoop shot. It drops down. Now, what happens now? Worthington tries to get his right foot to it, but Grobbelaar blocks it with the back of his hand and scoops it over the top. Quite extraordinary. Well, that's rather lovely. That's one of the benefits of modern television. We can actually see that from that camera angle.
Yeah.
It makes that man's work for the night really worthwhile on its own, Bob.
Of course, yeah, but he's a good goalkeeper, Bruce Grobbelaar. And in fact, both goalkeepers on show tonight, you know, have done nothing wrong. Very capable, very professional. And they've not had a lot to do, but what they've done is they've done very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Liverpool? They seem to be losing a bit of confidence and edge and a bit of imagination missing, or what is it?
Well, it's hard to put your finger on it. I do. Last year, I think at the same time, they were about 11 or 12 points clear at this time of the league. Maybe they're feeling a little bit edgy. I think really, though, that Graham Souness, because he's missing, you do take a lot away from Liverpool because he's very precise, you know, and he's got a lot of imagination. Yeah. Kenny Dalglish new in the side after a big and really serious injury, and looks as though he's taking a bit of time to get to match fitness again.
That's understandable. Yeah.
Of course, and he'll come good, there's no question about that. But at the moment, the build-up just seems to be a little bit slower and more predictable than it has been in of the Liverpool sides that we're used to seeing. And because of that, the young lads that are tidying up, you know, Agbuller at the back and right, are playing absolutely super.
They're coming out now, Bob, at this moment. There is the Liverpool team. They've got the challenge this half to get themselves back into this game. Southampton winning 1-0 and really deserving that lead, in my view. Back now to match commentator Barry Davis.
And the tune you're hearing is When the Saints Go Marching In. If you've joined us late, you've missed a really fine goal scored by Danny Wallace, but doubtless we'll give you the opportunity of seeing it later in the game, unless there are many more during this second half. Liverpool side first out onto the pitch. Began this match leading Manchester United by 2 points with 11 games to play. And it's worth making a comparison with last season, in spite of the performance of Ian Rush with 34 goals. Kenny Dalglish, of course, being missing for 14 games, has got 10. When you compare with last season after 31 games, Liverpool had a lead of 15 points. Here's the Southampton side. In 5th place, 11 points behind, 2 games in hand. It's a lovely ground here at the Dell, and it's a lovely evening for this man, Danny Wallace, and it will be interesting to see what effect that goal does have on his morale, as Jimmy Hill and Bobby Charlton were suggesting. Southampton beaten only twice in the last 18 games, at Old Trafford and at home to Nottingham Forest, and 6 wins and 2 draws in their last 8. During which time they've conceded just 3 goals, so full of confidence. Important week for both sides. Liverpool, who go to Lisbon to play Benfica with just a 1-goal lead, play them on Wednesday, and of course at the weekend they play in the final of the Football League Cup. Southampton have a midweek fixture against Sheffield Wednesday here in the quarter-final replay of the FA Cup. So much can be decided in the next 7 days. Peter Shilton had to collect pretty sharply by his near post, but other than that, has not been much employed. Williams. And again Williams. Moran started the run to the near post. We have to put that down as a shot on goal by Steve Williams. I wonder whether he in fact was trying to curl it for a player coming in on the far side. Rush. Holmes felt it, as is obvious from his expression. Although it should be noted that he is wearing shin guards. Rush in need of attention. And on comes Ronnie Moran. Nick Holmes has been a really good servant to this club. Only survivor of the 1976 FA Cup final side. And they beat Manchester United. But I don't think Rush will appreciate his talents too much at this moment. The magic spray seemed to be doing its job. Second from the right as we look, alongside his number 2, John Mortimer. He has a good squad here now, not as many as some clubs, but certainly has competition for places. Mills not quite where he intended. And Mark Dennis away. She had a bit of ground to move into, but he wanted it out of harm's way quickly. Dalglish. Williams. White. Whelan. Kennedy, offering on the left, a little bit short. Whelan. Interesting that both Rush and Wright misjudged the flight of that ball. Rush missed it completely. Wright got it going the wrong way. Johnston and Kennedy. Johnston takes it in the end. Sammy Lee. That's not a bad try. It's about 2 or 3 yards wide, no more. He didn't have too much time because they were charging at him. Mills. Moran. Williams just inside, but the turn has allowed defenders to get back. In the end, he plays a nothing ball. And the free kick has been given at a moment when Steve Moran was certainly not at his sharpest. And I suggest that somebody's made the point to him from his side, judging by that expression. Lawrence. Neil. Dalglish. Rush. Flag stays down. Right there, I would have thought, in spite of the appeals by 1 or 2 Southampton players. Williams. He wasn't going to waste any time, and he certainly found some space in the centre of the Liverpool defence. The left foot shot a little hurried and away. And There's some good news for Chelsea, leading Blackburn Rovers by 2-0. Goals scored by Niven and Sheedy. The goal scorer here at Southampton is Danny Wallace. Speedy, I should say, not Sheedy. I think he'd been transferred from Everton. There's Kennedy. Akbula. Holmes. Dennis. Worthington. Holmes, for a moment, thought he would get away. And the home crowd prepared to cheer everything. Johnston. And why shouldn't they? Worthington. Oh, look at that. Just blocked it on his left thigh. A good buy that Laurie McMenemy has made, taking him from Sunderland. He may be 35 years old, but still has much to offer. Lovely control of the ball, nice touches. If you want someone to hold the ball for you for a few vital seconds up front and play it off where you want it to go, he's the man. He's made the goal here for Danny Wallace, but ought to have scored against Sheffield Wednesday in what in fact was his 700th domestic appearance in the FA Cup last Sunday. And Michael Robinson to be brought into the action in place of Steve Nicol. Only 8.5 minutes of the second half. But Joe Fagan, the Liverpool manager, feeling that his side needs a change. That brings Dalglish back into midfield. And here's Armstrong, that got a ricochet. Johnson is now going to play right side of midfield. And here's Dennis for Southampton. Wallace. He's a little bit short, but he can try again. Put away by Neil for the corner. This gives me a chance to tell you the new Liverpool permutation. Craig Johnston playing right side. Kenny Dalglish playing behind the front two players who are now Rush and Michael Robinson. In comes Wright, away by Robinson. Wallace. Makes another fine catch. Kennedy. Well, the Southampton players were shouting easy, easy to Mick Mills. Certainly Kennedy was not easy in any way. Much too much beef on that. And still Shilton untroubled. Whelan. Neil. Rush and Holmes. And the linesman on the far side indicating a foul by Rush. Williams. Play on, says the referee. Dalglish. Dare I say he played it too far ahead of himself.
near side. Neil. Lee. Hansen. Just a side put away by Guller. Kennedy with a bit of space. Coming their way by Wright. That's what the new law has done for goalkeepers. Taking the ball on the body first, although in the end he didn't dribble it to the edge of the area. Once the goalkeeper's used his hands, he's not allowed to put it down and dribble it. Likes to amuse, to scrabble up, but he's very effective too, make no doubt about that. They're wanting to play particularly well against Benfica in the quarter-final of the European Cup, where he's had his problems. A trophy he hasn't won yet. Referee wants another ball. We're still waiting for the new ball. Chance for me to bring in Jimmy Hill for the first time in the second half.
I was just thinking how wise it was of Joe Fagan to make that substitution, at least to give Robinson, who comes on, some time in which to make a mark on the game. So often they're made in desperation 10 minutes from the end, where the player doesn't have a chance to settle. That's, of course, if it is a substitution and not an injury. We're not really clear on that point yet.
On by Worthington. Robinson. Williams. The play by McMills. Good spoon by Williams. Dalglish. Played it early for Robinson. Guller able to make up the ground. Had an hour of the match, and the goal right at the end of the first half in stoppage time still divides the teams. Again, a good pick-up on the near post. Travelling quite sharply from Alan Kennedy. Free kick given against Worthington, which clearly surprised him a bit. I was just thinking, there can't be too many matches with an hour gone. You could say that Liverpool haven't actually created a chance yet, and they haven't. There's Mills. Worthington. Complaining to Mr. Stevens that he was pushed by Alan Hansen. Lee, Robinson. Good galloping. Robinson has Rush in the middle, Whelan on the far side. But he didn't know he had Mark Dennis coming back on the blind side. Play by the full-back, although some determination from Michael Robinson, who's looking for a place in the League Cup final side. Johnston. Moran. Mills. Hanson. Whelan's the player down the middle. Rush on the left. Robinson, beaten to it by right. There's Johnston now on the right side with the departure of Nicol. A little dangerous, but he gets away with it because he was quick enough, Steve Moran. What the duties may play it now, and you've got 3 men over. Here's Worthington. Williams in the middle, Wallace on the far side. Corner is all they get from it. What a remarkable piece of play by Steve Moran, who in fact turned with his goal behind him and inviting the challenge, but then just when it looked as though it was coming, his pace took him away, and it was a lovely run down the middle, and there was a moment then when Southampton had 3 men over. All they get is a corner, and Armstrong would like to see the ball from it, or would he like it placed on the near post? Where is Wright? That wasn't a good header out by Kennedy. Free kick against Dalglish. Home crowd hugely enjoying the fact that Liverpool, at this stage of the match, are very much the second best team on the field. But there is only 1 goal in it. Lawrenson. Tripped by Worthington. Kennedy. Mills with a challenge. Holmes. Worthington has it and was held. Referee played the advantage again. Moran faced by Neal. Williams going into the box. .25 minutes left. The ball with Worthington. Should be noted that Williams so many times makes the forward run into the box, which is something that Tottenham's huddle doesn't like to do too often. We might get a comment on that from Jimmy Hill in a minute. There's Mills. Holmes. Worthington. Trying to get the pass inside the back who would have been Johnston. Southampton player stays down. Liverpool in possession. Mills. The boos because Dennis is not being given treatment. Right.
Hansen. Dalglish. Fullback to fullback. Lee, Dalglish. Just a change of pace. A lovely put in by Mick Mills. It's another fine purchase. And when you look at how Southampton are doing and the troubles at Ipswich, many feel that Ipswich problems went back to the time that this man left. Michael Mills, November '82 that was. Dennis back on the pitch. We're halfway through the second half. And Southampton, who've been the better side, only have a one-goal lead. And Agbula forcing Shilton to do something that I don't think he's done previously, and that is dive on the ball between the two posts of his goal. Mills. Oh, that's a lovely weight on that. And Gobala didn't need to come. Hansen got there first. Mills looking for the ball again. Williams, that's a defender's ball. Dalglish. Whelan. Agbula placed himself correctly. Holmes covered behind him. Rush. Robinson. Blocked by Armstrong. And the linesman's flag is up on the far side. And the free kick will be given for a bit of elbows. And if he's not careful, it will also be given for a bit of mouth. One or two people getting a preview of the match on those flats behind Peter Shilton's goal. Somebody's got a problem with the light, it would look, unless they're trying to give us a message. There's somebody out on a balcony. It's quite a cold night, but not wearing the coat. Armstrong, Worthington. It's not surprising that Southampton have such a good defensive record. The way that Agbula times his challenges, that Holmes and Armstrong have this knack of tucking in and giving the cover when it's needed. There's a nice balance about the side. 20 minutes left. Here's Kennedy. The only problem is that with only one goal in it, and if it stays that way, the pressure will begin to grow, as it always does when you're playing Liverpool.
Yes, it does, but there's a tremendous atmosphere in this ground about this match. They're so excited that they might be toppling the champions, and I must say, Liverpool are still trying, but do seem to lack that moment of imagination to break down the Southampton defence. Very impressive Southampton tonight, so many good performances all round. And if you remember when Liverpool was so much the stronger physical side against Newcastle, Southampton have matched them for physical battle tonight, and in football skill as well, and that says something. Even Williams, in comparing him with Hoddle, which is the point you made, Barry, I think the thing that he has is that he is a fierce tackler, and he competes very sternly for the ball and has the imagination and the craft as well to open up defences. A good all-round player who's settled down temperamentally and has proved it tonight in this very, very fierce battle. My goodness, I think the referee's done so well. It's a match that would test any referee, and he's emerged absolutely splendidly from it.
Steve Williams captaining a side which leads by 1-0, but on the balance of play they're worth more than that. Here's Lee. Whelan. A silly place to give away a free kick, and an unnecessary one. And I must say, I think some of the comments that are warming the air to the referee are also unnecessary and not a good example, particularly when the referee, as Jimmy was just saying, is in such control as this man is. Oh, was that intended? Hasn't moved anybody out of the wall. Comes to Kennedy. Didn't he make it look easy? It got a deflection, it swerved, and it went as though the gloved hands of Peter Shilton contained two magnets. Dalglish. Appeal for handball. Here's Williams. Got to be quick. Foul by Phil Neal. It's a match that Mr. Stevens has had to be at his best. Williams, I think, then lost a little bit of concentration when the ball was played to him by Williams. I should say Wallace lost concentration when the ball was played by Williams. Grovelar with the punch. Robinson didn't look. And quite often Liverpool players don't need to. Perhaps that's a bit of a summary of the match, that sort of thing should go wrong. Well, you can't win them all, Michael. Robinson, nice kill, nice hold. Finds Dalglish. Oh! It was a pretty strong elbow into the chest from Kenny Dalglish. And the free kick. Dalglish, no mean competitor, but it was a pretty mean action then. And that is an England-Scotland confrontation. But there's a smile below what the eyes are saying. There's no doubt that it was a very, very strong elbow into the chest. Dennis. Whelan. Southampton have pulled all back bar two. Dalglish. Steve Moran has done a fair bit of cover. And here's Mark Dennis. Williams wasn't the best of balls. Didn't really give him anything to feed up. It's corner. Wellington in his usual position, on the near side of the 6-yard box from the kicker's viewpoint. Armstrong arriving late. Away by Lawrence. Armstrong again. Moran. And he was clearly onside.
came forward from the back, did Armstrong, and he was there after the thing had been taken, and Moran moved forward to head wide. Obviously felt that there was something made of that. He took a friendly swish at him and very nearly missed, because there wasn't too much there to stop the hand going through. I know the feeling. Mark Dennis to take. Worthington are right to run from the right. In the middle is Steve Moran, and the shot came from another Steve, Williams. And he got a knock in the process. Armstrong. Play it first time, and it was very nearly caught by the nippy Johnson. Neil did well to keep it in. Craig Johnston very nearly collected on the goal line. But just listen to the atmosphere in what Laurie McMenemy once used to call the sleepy South Coast. Well, the part that he has played in the success of Southampton has changed all that. Dennis. Well, it's unlucky. He was moving the wrong way, but the flag was up. Kennedy. Agbula, eventually. Kennedy. What a good game David Armstrong has had. And Southampton are going to bring on David Puckett, who scored when he came on in his last home game here, and he's replacing Frank Worthington. Puckett has 10 minutes to play. And he came on against Norwich in the last home game. He scored the winning goal.
Well, I must say Frank Worthington's earned his sit down there at the end of this game. He started off throwing himself about like a spring chicken, but all through the game has been really delightful, apart from his enthusiasm with his lovely touches, from which the young Southampton players, I'm sure, have learned and will go on learning for as long as he can last. But it's a young man now who replaces him and will fit in, I'm sure, to the Southampton pattern. It's evident tonight that they have had a much more shape to their team. They've really picked Liverpool to pieces with deep crosses from Mark Dennis on one side and Wallace on the other, and when they've hit those crosses they've got them right over the goalkeeper's head to the far post and then returned to create goal-scoring chances. It's worked. They've beaten Liverpool to the tackle, and they have about 9 minutes to hold on now in order to get those 3 points.
Right. Neil. Alan Kennedy has taken a knock and clearly was in some pain then. Rush, appeal for offside, the flag stays down. And Wright forced to concede the corner. And Alan Kennedy has clearly badly hurt the left knee. And he's not making too much fuss about it. And Mr. Stevens suggesting he should hobble off. And having done so, the corner is to be taken. And Shilton, who came towards the near post, was perfectly balanced to stand in the centre of his goal. But he hasn't been tested tonight. Williams, Puckett, just offside. Neil, Rush, Dalglish. Certainly not at his best, Kenny Dalglish, after this long layoff. And Alan Kennedy has come back on again, but as you can see, it's quite painful, the left knee. Dalglish having a few words. Current Footballer of the Year, and the PFA Footballer of the Year to be voted for again, or to be awarded again next weekend. And again, just a little time off the field with Ronnie Moran, 6 minutes left. Free kick to Southampton. Holmes do dovetail so well. Holmes and Dennis on the left, and Armstrong everywhere. And again, that's a good break. Dennis endeavouring to force him wide or make him go the long way round. Agbula gets the nod. Whelan. Good determination and typical from Mills. And Dalglish and Williams met pretty solidly then. Dalglish got the worst of it. Oh, well taken by Wallace. Hansen trying to ease him away, which he does. Cross is too strong. Puckett needs help. Sees Dennis. Wallace! Extraordinary header, really, because it seemed as though he wasn't sufficiently far wide. But he got it very much off the side of his head, and it flew past Bruce Grobbelaar. That's a second for him. Second for Southampton. There you are, he had to get up, a lot of height having come forward, and it gave it such a vicious angle. It's a fine jump by the little man. And with 86 minutes gone, the match is decided. Grobbelaar beaten for the second time, and it's become a Friday night of triumph for Danny Wallace. Any fears that were being entertained by the Southampton supporters have now been dismissed. And Danny Wallace has taken his total to 5, got 13 last season, and how delighted his manager will be with him. And Liverpool playing out the closing minutes with 10 men. And Alan Kennedy will need a lot of work, I think, to get him fit for Wednesday night against Benfica. And the fear is that the injury to Kennedy is knee ligaments. While the Southampton supporters know that this match has been won, those at Stamford Bridge are a little bit on the edge of their seats because the score there is now Chelsea 2, Blackburn Rovers 1. Robinson. That's a lovely ball. If it had curled a little bit more, but it didn't. Well played by Holmes. Was another to have had a fine match. Pocket. Wallace near post. Off Hansen for the corner. Under 2 minutes remaining, but over a minute to add for the early stoppage in the half involving Ian Rush. And they're really jumping up and down behind Bruce Govelar's goal. They've enjoyed their evening here, the Southampton supporters. Second year running, they would have beaten Liverpool, and indeed they've got a draw up there and a win here. Minute of the match left, and the result which will delight not only Laurie McMenemy but Ron Atkinson and Manchester United, because they will have a chance of going top if they beat Arsenal tomorrow at Old Trafford. And it certainly opened up the race, and we're going to have a very interesting last quarter to the League Championship. Right. And I wonder too what Howard Kendall, the manager of Everton, feels about this Liverpool performance, whether it gives him hope or whether he fears that maybe they will be on the receiving end of Liverpool being stung by this sort of reverse. Benfica to come in between, of course, in Lisbon. Wallace. Williams. And we're now playing the time allowed by Mr. Stevens for stoppages. Finding Steve Moran, and he might come inside and let one go. Goes both ways. And Armstrong couldn't find the touch. He was in the right place yet again, but really for him, couldn't find the finishing touch as Moran came outside his man, on the floor, only needed a poke, but he couldn't find it. Really good night for Southampton, and in particular for Danny Wallace. Two spectacular goals, one overhead kick, one header that went off the side of his head and really flew past Bruce Govelar. And it's given Southampton a thoroughly merited victory from a very, very fine team performance. Liverpool by no means at their best. And it's a result which really opens up the closing stages, the last quarter of the League Championship. Southampton 2, Liverpool 0.
Well, what excitement, Bob, and news has been made. We've seen Liverpool beaten in the Championship.
Yeah,
wide open.
Well, it's so unusual because they don't ever play badly, Liverpool, and they haven't really played badly today. They've gone at the end and they've tried to bring out a little bit of something, overcommitted themselves and given another goal away. But first-class Southampton defence. I mean, everything that Liverpool's thrown at them, they've been very, very tidy, right at the back, Agbula. And they're a confident, buoyant lot, Southampton, at the moment. And the confidence really was the difference between the two teams.
Well, confidence it was, and the confidence of one man, really. The man's named Danny Wallace, and tonight he's the toast of Hampshire for 2 moments of splendid opportunism.
Worthington. Beautifully done. And Wright has moved up to the far post for the return. And Grobbelaar changed his mind. Wallace! Oh, I say! What a magnificent goal! Sees Dennis. Wallace!